Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Armor Gaming. More importantly, welcome back to Monster Analysis. Today I'm going to be analyzing Cavenfish. In the never-ending war between pirates and sharks, the pirates usually win, but that's just because they're the ones with the cannons. Cavenfish managed to get a ship full of them, and now he's the victorious one. I guess that explains his ultimate attack. So here we have Cavenfish as a child, as a teenager, and as an adult when he became a pirate captain. And I like this monster design, and more importantly, this is one of the most popular water monsters, one of the better water monsters actually in the entire game. A really good monster, and I'm gonna get straight into the stats. His power, 3080, is not impressive whatsoever. It's actually one of the worst powers for water monsters. So the weakest water monster is Lord of Atlantis at 2926. So this monster is actually tied with White Walker. So power is not strong whatsoever. However, when it comes to water monsters, it doesn't matter too much because they tend to be deny monsters, and this monster is an example of a really good deny monster. His life is 28,651, and in terms of just water monsters, that's a pretty good life. His life is actually tied with Kaalik, Varna, and Svernes, and it's like in the center of all the water monsters, so it's pretty good. And his speed of 3,454 is actually pretty darn impressive. Although there are 4 monsters faster than him, 3 of those monsters have the exact same speed stat. The stat 3,454 is actually the 3rd highest of all the water monsters, so he's pretty darn fast. And more importantly, his trait, like many of you know, is immune to freeze. So even though there are deny monsters that are faster than Cavenfish, it doesn't really matter because he can't be frozen, so then you'll still get a turn in, and Cavenfish, his skills are pretty darn impressive, which I'm going to talk about later on. Like I mentioned, he is water, therefore his weakness is thunder, and I already mentioned his trait, immune to freeze. So let's move on to his default and special skill. We have Pirate Attack, Rough Sea. Like usual, nothing too impressive about the default skills. 25 damage, 13 stamina, 30 damage, 13 stamina, no cooldown, 100% accuracy, nothing too special. His special, however, Pirate Execution, deals heavy special damage to all enemies, may stun targets. It's an AoE stun with 65 damage. The important thing about this skill, again, Cavenfish is a deny monster. It does AoE stun. So in the realm of water monsters where all the good water deniers are immune to freeze, an AoE stun special skill is really good. Now the only monster immune to stun of the water monsters is currently Varna. So this is by far a really good skill. Moving on to skills group 1, this monster is rare because he actually does have a skill that lots of people love to use, and it's not Pirate Aggression, but Pirate Aggression real quick deals moderate water damage, removes 20% of stamina from all targets, 35 damage, 21 stamina, no cooldown, again 20% energy drain. I'm gonna move down to Wild Sea, deals moderate water damage, 50% chance of freezing target, again no cooldown, 35 damage, 27 stamina. The skill a lot of people love to use is Lead Rain. Lead Rain, it's an AoE stun, deals moderate special damage, 50% chance to stun. So just to review real quick, 35 damage, 26 stamina, no cooldown. The thing about this skill is it only has a 50% chance to stun. Now, as you all know, when a skill says 50% chance to stun, you're basically flipping a coin and it's either going to stun or not stun. Most of the time, however, it doesn't stun, it doesn't freeze. When it's 50%, for some reason, it doesn't really feel like 50%. Most of us experience it that the effect won't apply. So for that reason, a lot of people don't like this skill. A lot of people refuse to use the skill. However, a lot of people love to use the skill because he has another skill later on that has a cooldown and it's an AoE stun. And I don't know how many of you know this, but for some reason you can back-to-back stun when it's like 100% stun and a 50% stun. For whatever reason, I don't know why, whether it's a glitch or if it was intended to be like this. I feel like it's a glitch because after a monster is stunned, it says this monster can't be stunned for the next turn. But for some reason, and again I don't know why, you're allowed to stun with a AoE 100% stun skill. And I say 100%, but of course it's never 100%. It might stun, it might not stun, but you're allowed to stun with a skill that isn't 50%, and then you're allowed to stun with a skill that is 50%. It's really strange. I don't know if it's a glitch, but that's the case. So for that reason, it is a useful skill to run. And actually, the reason it's even more useful, it's a really good anti-Timerion. And I say anti-Timerion not in the terms that he can stun Timerion. I say it's anti-Timerion because in a battle where you're running all speed runes on your Cavenfish and your opponent is running all speed runes on their Timerion, and let's say they have better runes than you and they go first and they do cooldowns activated, and all your monsters, they have cooldowns now, you can use Lead Rain because it's no cooldown. You can use Lead Rain and try to stun the 2 other enemy monsters. Now yes, it's 50%, you might miss, but again, it's 50%, you have a chance to stun them. So yes, you might miss, but some chance to stun is better than no chance to stun, because if you only have cooldown skills, when Timerion hits you with cooldowns activated, you will have absolutely nothing to use. So Lead Rain, something is better than nothing. So definitely a skill worth considering, definitely a skill worth running. Moving on to Pirate Barrage, deals heavy water damage, removes 25% of stamina from target. Now, there's no reason to run this skill. 25% of stamina from target is pretty darn good. However, it's not that much of a game changer. Like, yes, if the enemy has used stamina and then maybe draining that last 25% will help you win the game, but in my opinion, it's really not needed. And then, especially when we have a skill like Board Her. Board Her, in my opinion, is a really good skill. Board Her gives precision, damage boost, and stamina regeneration. Now, increased accuracy is really good, energy regeneration is really good, and damage boost is also really darn good. Yes, damage boost is not as good as 2x damage, but it's still a boost. Now, what I like about Board Her is, if you use it on your own Cavenfish, and you decided to use Lead Rain from skills group 1, increased accuracy increases the chance of Lead Rain actually hitting. So you're going to have a 0 cooldown stun skill that you can use, and the likelihood of it landing is actually higher than before. So I personally do really like Board Her. Now in the game, it might not be called Board Her, it might be called All Aboard, so keep that in mind when you're choosing skills. And next we have Bullet Rain. 30 damage, 34 stamina, 3 turn cooldown, and this is the skill. Deals low special damage to all enemies, but it may stun all targets. So this is the upgraded version of Lead Rain. As you can see the difference, this has a 3 turn cooldown, while the other skill has no cooldown. However, the other skill is 50%, but this skill is not 50%. So what's cool about Bullet Rain? Well, like I mentioned previously, for some reason, and I don't know why, you can actually use Lead Rain and Bullet Rain, and you can like double stun essentially. Now, the cool thing about running both Lead Rain and Bullet Rain is, one, like I said, if there's an enemy Timerion and they stun you, you can still use Lead Rain, and then whenever your cooldowns are reactivated, you can use Bullet Rain. But again, for some reason, you're allowed to do Bullet Rain, stun all of the enemy targets, and then they become immune to stun, but then next turn you can use Lead Rain and they can potentially be stunned again. And again, I don't know why it is, but for some reason you can stun back to back when it's a 50% and a non-50% stun. Moving on, we have Corsair Offensive. Deals moderate water damage, removes 50% of stamina from target, requires cooldown. Now, unlike Pirate Barrage that does 50 damage, this skill only does 35 damage. And unlike it removing 25% stamina, you remove 50% stamina. And in my opinion, removing 50% stamina is super important. It's really helpful. And this is a potential game changer. Like, this really wouldn't work in Team Wars unless you were to have Legendary as the rarity. But if you pair him up with someone like General Thetis, who does a 100% stamina devour, right? And then the enemy recharges, then you can use this skill to drain 50% of the enemy's main like threat to you. So it's really useful. 50% energy points, in my opinion, is a good skill. Definitely recommend running this skill. And again, you're not after damage here. You're not even going to run strength runes. You're going to be running speed runes, so this is a phenomenal skill. We have Cavenfish's Curse. 50% chance of freezing, dazing, slowing, applying damage reduction to the target. 3 turn cooldown, 34 stamina. Now, I actually really don't like this skill. Now, for one, it's 50% chance of freezing. Well, again, in terms of water monsters, you don't really need freeze because they're all the good ones are immune to freeze. But even if a monster isn't immune to freeze, it's 50% chance, so the likelihood of you landing it isn't that great. You do have dazing, but dazing isn't that great, especially when you have a skill that can give you like remove 50% of energy. That's probably more useful than dazing. And you do have damage reduction, and while dazing and damage reduction work really well together, I would still say not really needed, because it's only a single target. If it was an AoE, maybe I would consider this skill. And lastly, you have slow, but the problem with slow is that it's the 20% chance, so the likelihood of landing slow is really darn small, so it's probably not going to happen. I don't recommend this skill at all. Definitely, you don't even need to consider using this skill. Now, of course, you could argue that if you do All Aboard or Board Her, whatever it's called in the game, and give yourself increased accuracy, this skill would become more beneficial. But let's be honest, if you're giving yourself increased accuracy, you would probably want to use an AoE freeze or an AoE stun, and not just focus on freezing one monster or giving them damage reduction in daze. So for that reason, I don't think this skill is good. Moving on to Round Rain, this is his other deny skill, and the reason that Cavenfish is a favorite to many players is because of his versatility. He has an AoE freeze skill, so he has 2 AoE stun skills, 1 AoE freeze skill. He also has stamina drain, so this monster basically has it all. He has everything he needs for a deny monster. He has the AoE stun, he has the AoE freeze. I mean, if he had AoE stamina drain, he'd be OP, but yeah, he has a 50% stamina drain, and not only that, he has a trait immune to freeze, which really gives him a competitive edge. But not only that, he also has a really high speed stat. Whether it be Team Wars, whether it be PvP, you're going to see this monster a lot. And in terms of Team Wars, because he has an AoE stun, that really puts him on top of other water monsters. Because most water monsters, they will have AoE freeze. But I've mentioned it over and over again. Lots of water deny monsters are immune to freeze. So even if you do AoE freeze and freeze 2 of the enemy monsters, then guess what? They're going to do AoE freeze on you and freeze 2 of your monsters. So it's not really helpful. With Cavenfish, however, you can do AoE stun. And then next turn, do AoE freeze. Like, he's just really useful. Now, I'm not going to say that he's the best water monster, because if you guys have seen my top 5 legendaries, there is a monster called Kaolic, who is slightly faster than Cavenfish, who you also run all speedruns with. And Kaolic has a skill that gives your whole team immune to freeze and stun. So if your enemy has Kaolic and you have Cavenfish, and that Kaolic, you guys have the same runes, and Kaolic uses that skill, your whole team is immune to freeze and stun, your Cavenfish is basically useless. At best, he'll have a skill that drains 50% stamina, but he's basically useless for like 3 or 4 turns, however long Protection of Northern Winds lasts. So yeah, keep that in mind. But again, in terms of offensive, Cavenfish is by far one of the best deny monsters in the game, and he's probably going to remain one of the best deny monsters in the game, for the reason that he has a 0 cooldown stun skill. Even if it's 50%, it's a better chance than having no moves at all. The fact that he has an AoE stun, the fact that he has an AoE freeze, the fact that he has immune to freeze, the fact that he has good speed, the fact that he still has a 50% stamina drain, he's a really good monster. On top of that, he also has a skill that gives any of your allies energy regeneration and precision and a little damage boost. So he's just really good. I really can't get over how good this monster is. If you don't have him, he's by far a monster worth getting. So as for what skills I think you should run are Bullet Rain and Round Rain. You really can't get away without running those 2 skills. That's what makes Cavenfish really special. Bullet Rain, Round Rain. And then I really recommend Corsair Offensive, because that 50% stamina drain can really make or break a game in certain situations. It's really useful. And then it's really up to you if you want to run Board Her, which again, I think in the game it's called All or Board, or if you want to run Lead Rain. Lead Rain, again, it's a really good anti-Timerion tactic. However, at the same time, it's not necessarily needed, because in a Team Wars, if it's metal, water, and some other element, there's better options to run than Cavenfish. You know, for main deny, you could probably run General Thetis with all speed runes and do Stamina Devours and take away the enemy's Timerion stamina. So you don't need to worry about being cooldowns activated and then using Lead Rain. Like, there's so many different tactics. So I personally don't run Lead Rain in my skill set. I run Bullet Rain, Round Rain, Corsair Offensive, and All Aboard, or Board Her, whatever it's called in the game, or whatever it's called wherever you live. But if you really want to, and maybe more for PvP, would be helpful to run Lead Rain in case you encounter Timerions who are faster than you. Run Lead Rain instead of All Aboard. So yeah, just real quick, what I recommend personally is Bullet Rain, Round Rain, Corsair Offensive, and All Aboard. But if you don't want All Aboard, go ahead and run Lead Rain, and that really depends on you. If you have 2 Cavenfish, try them both out, see what you like better. As far as what team this monster works best in, well, he's a main deny monster. He is there just to immobilize the enemy team. As long as you have that, you can plop him into any team and he's going to do really well. And for what runes, you just need all speed runes. The best runes you have, give them to Cavenfish and you're good to go. And that concludes my monster analysis on Cavenfish. I know a lot of you have been wanting me to analyze him for a long time, so there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Let me know who you want me to analyze next week, and I'll see you guys next time.